Yeah, hey, how are you folks doing? This is Bob Gums with the Concern Forum, and I am in Uganda, excuse me, Kampala, Uganda, and I just wanted to drop in my 2 cents. Now, first of all, I hope that you guys would do me the great favor when you see me on YouTube, if you could make those little check marks uh, basically saying that you saw the show and what have you. I'm trying to start something here, and I mean, even if you don't like what I say, I'd appreciate if I could get your comments because I really, unlike the Republican Party, I give it down what people think. Okay, so where are we now? Well, it seems that the voice of the people has spoken in New York City. And we have a new mayor named Mamdami, right? Now, excuse me. Well, by the way, let me drop this on you first. Elon Musk, that guy that he likes to give those high Hitler Nazi salutes. Apparently, he is the world's first, or put it this way, in modern times. I believe that Mansa Musa back in the so-called Middle Ages in Northwest Africa was much wealthier than he is. But for the sake of conversation, um, in these modern times, apparently Mr. Musk is listed as the first trillionaire. Okay. So I want you folks to think about that for a moment. Now, this guy came over here, he sucked out uh, billions of dollars out of the American how you would say it, out of the American Treasury for his companies. And now he's listed as the first trillionaire. Meanwhile, you have a Republican run government that says that 42 Americans don't need to eat. Period. Now you think about that, right? This guy Musk that was hand in glove with the Trump administration, and him and his little teenage friends were running around firing everybody in the government, positions that American people depend on to, get stuff done. And, he has his companies. Apparently, he was getting a lot of money from the United States government. And now he's a fucking trillionaire. So I want all you folks out there that are starving, right? You're not getting your SNAP, you're not getting your EBT. And a lot of you voted Republican in November 24. I want to know how you all feel about that. Seriously. This guy that literally screwed you, and now he's the world's in modern times, he's the world's first trillionaire, and he's hand in glove with Donald Trump. And him and his little teenage friends basically want to go through all your personal stuff and what have you. And I'm just curious, how do you feel about that? You know, I'm from New York, right? We have a saying, if you're gonna screw me, you gotta kiss me, man. So I'm just wondering how you hungry people feel about that. All you hungry people that voted Republican, how do you feel about that? Do you feel happy that Elon Musk is now a trillionaire? Okay, I'm just curious. I want to know how you think. I'm on YouTube. You can send me tell me to shut the hell up or whatever, comments. But I like to know seriously. Now, getting to Mandami, I'm going to say what really upsets me about this. All right, I'm a commentator. Okay, I am a citizen commentator. Put it that way. I got a college degree, but I didn't go to any Ivy League school. I fought and clawed my way while I was in the military to get an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. I have 1 year towards a master's. Okay, so I'm not an Ivy League scholar person, but I can freaking read. And with my time in the military, I think I know more about America's international position than most of these assholes that you see coming on television. Okay. So anyway, um, what do you think about that? We in New York City, and I say we, right? Because I mean I've been over here since June, but I'm in New York. Okay. I mean, you stab me in my gut, I'm going to bleed 42nd Street. And then when you try to tie, when you try and stench the flow of blood, you gotta have to use something, pads from Harlem. Okay, so I think I'm a New Yorker more than the average jerk that gets on the television or video or radio. So I want to know, how do you feel about the fact that a few days ago, Americans living in New York exercised their constitutional right to vote, and they voted for Zorhan Mamdami. Okay, which is cool. If my person that is running for reelection in the Bronx, if he had sent me my voting stuff, I would have voted for Mamdami myself. But just out of curiosity, how do you feel about the fact that the president of the United States has decided to threaten the citizens of New York about their vote? Now, I hear all this bullshit. Excuse me. Mm. I hear all this nonsense about, oh, well, Madonna is such a commie and blah, 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 blah. Well, what is the thing? I'm a little bit older than most folks out here that get on YouTube and shoot their mouth off. So the good thing about that is that, remember, okay, a lot of the stuff I talk because whether I was there or I lived, I went through those times. Now, I remember like back in the 60s and 70s, we talked about, oh, well, the communist Soviet Union, there's no freedom, and people don't really have a voice, and they don't vote. So fast forward a decade or two, now we live in America where the president of the United States says that, hey man, if you vote for this dude, I'm going to send troops to your city, and the federal allocations that you folks are that you're entitled to, I'm going to do all I can to stop that. Now, I'm trying to understand. I've gone in my lifetime, I've gone from, oh, well, those dirty Russian communist, Soviet commies, dictators, right, that don't believe in freedom. I've gone from that to here in the United States, where my president, which, okay, for good or bad, was democratically elected. Now this guy's going to say that I don't have the right as an American and as a New Yorker to choose the person that I want to be my mayor. And that if I make that choice that he doesn't like, I'm going to do everything I can to strangle your city. Now, besides, I'm not even going to get into the legalities of that. I'm not a freaking lawyer, okay? But I'm just curious. What happened? Where did we go wrong? Okay, was I asleep for a couple of decades? We have gone from, yeah, we're America, USA. We don't, we believe in freedom. We don't believe in communist dictatorships. But we've gone from that to Donald Trump, who happens to be the president, saying that, look, I don't like who you voted for. So I'm going to literally starve your city and bring in the military. Have I missed something here? Hmm? You know, I know some people say I'm radical. Um, I looked it up. That word radical. I think it says something to the effect about people that want to get to the root of the problem, and I think that that's probably the root of our problem here in the United States. You have a president that feels that he can sit up on top of people, tell them what to do, tell them who to vote for, and if he doesn't like who they vote for, he feels he has the right to basically, I don't know, cut you off. Seriously. I mean, I'm not, I ain't saying this. This is what he says. And I'm just trying, I'm trying to rationalize that, you know. Excuse me for ducking my head down every so often, but I made some notes here. Now, yeah, this is a threat. All right. Yeah, that's what it is. Trump is threatening the city of New York because of the fact that we voted for Mamdami. I don't get that. I thought as an American, I had the right to vote for Mario Cuomo, excuse me, Cuomo or Joe Schmo, Mary Jane, whoever, for mayor. I thought that was my right as an American. Those several times I took the oath when I went into the military, I thought that's what the hell I was supposed to be fighting for, supporting, protecting, what have you. But now we have this president that says, no, you can only vote for the people that I like. He liked Cuomo. Before that, he liked Adams. Um, and they cursed out, what's his name? My man with the beret, right? Because they said, well, hey, you're taking votes from Cuomo. Is that the proper place for a president of the United States? I mean, this is something really new to me, you know. Now, let me see now. Oh, and this other bullshit about, you got all these Republicans running around saying, well, but Trump wasn't on the ballot, and that's why things went the way they did a few days ago in the elections. Well, that's BS. Okay? Everything that Republicans do, I can assure you, Trump is on the ballot. Okay? I'll tell you why. Because of the fact that the Republican Party, they have decided, for the most part, I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them, Mm. they have decided to become a bunch of eunuchs. You know what a eunuch is, right? I mean, I'm not trying to get nasty, but a eunuch is a male that has his genitals cut off. And I think that that is the most appropriate description of the Republican Party, especially Republicans in Congress. Their genitalia has been sliced off. Uh, I would have to say willingly, because they, whatever Donald says, they bow to. They're afraid of the ugly thugs and MAGA. So, quite frankly, one of the things I would not want to be nowadays is a Republican congressman. Quite frankly, excuse me, a male Republican congressman, because they have no genitalia, right? Or as we would say in the street when I was growing up, they have no balls. So I don't know, ladies, you tell me what's the use of a man that has no balls? Hence the problem with the today's Republican Party. Are they going to bow to Trump? Are they going to bow to MAGA? Or who are they going to bow to? That seems to be their main problem. I really don't get it. And what they decided to do This is a long-running problem with Republicans. I know because I was raised in the Republican Party. Oh yeah, you used to have a whole bunch of black Republicans, quite frankly. And I was raised in that party. And what I have seen them, or put it this way, how I've seen them evolve over the last 30, 40 years. I mean, it's pathetic. Yeah. It's like they went and they looked for every trailer park trash that they could find. And they did it. I congratulate them, you know. And it doesn't say too much for the character of the Republican Party. And, they got away with that bullshit for quite some time. However, the problem is, um, go ask MAGA what their health care proposal happens to be. All those rural hospitals that are being closed down because, they cut Medicare and Medicaid and all this other good shit, and people have no hospitals. So, MAGA is great, when they want to attack Indian Americans, uh, talking about, oh, well, white men are being replaced and all this other good stuff. But when it comes to having viable policies, right, for healthcare, employment opportunities, they ain't got nothing to say. I give you an example. Now we've had this massive deportation uh, insanity going on for the last couple of months. We have seen people beaten in the streets, dragged, thrown in the vans, and all this other good stuff, right? And what I'm curious about is that, oh, not to mention a lot of people that were being beaten in the streets and thrown in the vans, they're American citizens, right? But what I'm curious about, and please contact me because I really want to know how many of you folks out there have you gotten a pay increase? Hmm? Have you gotten have your job prospects, your employment prospects, have they improved? I mean, Trump and MAGA was talking about, these so-called illegal immigrants taking American jobs and all this kind of crap, right? Okay. You have been doing your thing. You have been snatching people off the street, beating them, hurting them, what have you, shipping them out of the country or sending them to concentration camps. And I want to know, how has that helped, the average American in terms of uh, being number one, getting employed, number one, and number two, seeing their pay rate, seeing a pay raise in their jobs. So far, I haven't heard anybody say, yeah, all this deportation and whatnot, my pay rate, my hourly wage has gone up. I haven't heard anybody saying that. So what's the deal? What's up with that? And oh, I see something just popped up on my computer. They're talking about Trump. He's so unserious. Experts say Trump's new plan is going to kill a whole lot of. What are they talking about now? They're talking about a whole lot of. So he will provide a multi-billion dollar payout directly to Americans as an alternative to funding government health care subsidies. Now, you know, I know that people, we all have our hangups. We all have our different ways. None of us are perfect, okay? But I hate when people are trying to basically say, here's a plate of bullshit. I want you to eat it, all right? The Republican Party seems to really enjoy that. People, thinking that people are stupid. Trump and the Republican Party since 20, when are you going about? 2017? And they still don't have a healthcare program for the American people. And you know why? My opinion, because the Republican Party, this modern Republican Party, doesn't give a good goddamn about the health care of the majority of the American people. Okay? Now, if they try to, especially go into rural America and say, hey, the trans people are running around and watch the LGBT community, and keep an eye on them black folks and them college educated women. Yeah, they're good at that, right? They're good at dividing people. I have to give them an A+ for that, for dividing folks. But when it comes to solutions for people's everyday freaking lives, they don't have any. And the reason is because this modern Republican Party, they're not built for that. This is not the Republican Party, and I'm no history here. This is not the Republican Party of Dwight Eisenhower. Okay, Dwight Eisenhower, you might have heard of him. The Army general that essentially conquered fascism in Western Europe, and then went on to become president of the United States. One of the things he said as president was that anyone that tries to roll back the New Deal is a damn fool. Hmm. Now, that's Dwight Eisenhower, okay? Commander of the Allied forces in Western Europe, okay? And that shows you how the Republican Party has degraded itself. Because the Republican Party that you have now, they don't give a damn about you. And what really angers me, they come out and I mean, let's get real here. They go into like rural white America and farm country and some of the schmucks in the cities and talk about, oh, well, these black folks and these women and crime, all of this damn culture war bullshit. But when it comes to with these white folks trying to, yo, we're going to try and help you because of the fact that your job sucks, you're not getting paid, and you need food stamps, we're going to help you eat, right? They don't care. They're not there because they don't give a damn about you. Okay? I I dare say that the Republican Party doesn't give a damn about black folks, doesn't give a damn about working class white folks, doesn't give a damn about Latinos, which the Latino population has found out to their horror and chagrin. Okay? This is today's Republican Party. It's not built for you. It is built for, the two main core, two, three, the three things, the 3 points of today's Republican Party. It is for about wealthy people like Elon Musk, okay? It is for racist people like the MAGA folks, okay? And it is for moronic people that actually believe that the Republican Party is going to help them. Those are the only three groups that the Republican Party is about. And I would say to my white brothers and sisters, my white American brothers and sisters, you need to get woke. And you need to realize that all their game is all about divisiveness. Okay? And you got a little kind of a little foreign policy thing there because right now, with Americans starving, you have a president that thinks it's okay to kill Latin Americans and Caribbean people, right? By saying, oh, well, they're running drugs, so let's kill them. Okay. Now, I tell you quite frankly, you can always tell somebody that was a coward, and when it was their time to go in the military, they came up with foot ailments. And this guy did it 5 times. Because if he knew anything about the military, he would know that we have a Navy. And one of the things the Navy has been doing for the last 250 years is called search and seizure. You don't have to kill people, right, to inspect cargo. But here we go. We got Donald Trump basically just killing folks. Yeah, I don't like these people. Let's kill them. Now, of course, it's all about trying to remove a leader, or put it this way, trying to remove a guy because of the fact that he doesn't like him. I guess what's his name, Maduro? Listen, I don't really know that much about Maduro. And quite frankly, I really don't give a damn. Okay? I'm a firm believer in that countries have to work out their own issues. Now, don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm not saying that. Yeah, well, yeah, we stand by and watch hundreds of thousands of people be butchered. I'm not talking about that. That's not what's happening in Venezuela. As a matter of fact, that's not what's happening in any Latin American country. Uh, the main thing is that Trump has leaders of Latin American countries that he don't like. So his idea is to do regime change. And I'm just wondering, and I spent half my time in the Navy in Intel, okay, right there in the White House and in the Pentagon and NSA. And I'm just wondering, when in the hell is America going to learn? Okay, you can't smother people. You can't. What's the right phrase? You can't you can't have people. You can't push people to go in a direction that you want them to go, because all you do is you cause more problems. And I would say to all you Americans out there in the heartland, are you willing to have your son or your daughter come back in a body bag by trying to institute Donald Trump's foreign policy? That's the basic question. It took us a while because remember, I went the first time I went into service. This was towards the end of Vietnam. Okay, and we saw how that really disrupted our country. Vietnam, I think, just like by the time I went to the army, got out, went to college for a while, went back in the Navy. I had a petty officer that told me when I was in Navy boot camp that Vietnam was probably one of the most disastrous political things that happened to America since the Civil War. And I believe that he was right because it divided the country. It wasn't necessary. And we wound up losing over 58,000 Americans for what? Nowadays, you run around wearing sneakers made where? In Vietnam. So you tell me how much, how much it was worthwhile. So how do you think, how do you think it would turn out attacking Venezuela? How do you think it would turn out? What's another spot he wants to hit? Colombia? And where else? Oh, Nigeria. Oh, this is wonderful. An American regime dedicated to white nationalism wants to invade Nigeria in Africa. Okay. Now, how do you think you think that's going to turn out? I mean, listen, I'm not. I know there's a diplomatic, proper um, Ivy League way of expressing things. I guess because I've gotten older, I don't have time for that bullshit. And you know what? Neither do you, because you have this demented criminal madman running around the White House, and he's going to get your kids, your husbands, your wives killed, because not only is he trying to, how should I say, use American military might to try to subdue the countries in the, I hate to use this term, third world. He wants to use the military to subdue you in your own country, in America. And you have to realize that people have to realize what the hell is going on. And this is not some kind of delicate, political tete-a-tete back and forth. This is real. People are being beaten in the streets, kidnapped off the streets. You have an ICE that's totally out of control. They're hiring fucking thieves, sex perverts, right? Criminals, and they're putting them in there, and they're sending these people to American cities to basically harass and intimidate the populations. And people need to wake up and understand what's happening. Now, I'm glad about the over 7 million people that marched on No King's Day, right? I'm also happy when I see the results of this election the other day. But we have to keep that going, number one. And number two, my own personal thing, we need to protect Zorhan Mamdami, quite frankly. There's a lot going on. You have the whole thing with the Zionists and Israel, and they see that Americans are, hey, wait a minute, we don't want to we don't want to do no genocide. And some people are trying to say, oh, well, if you're not going to support Israel, you're anti Semitic, which is bullshit because Israel is a sovereign nation. Okay. And if I have a right as an American to criticize the activities of a sovereign nation. And nobody knows the disgust of anti Semitism more than I do. One of the reasons why I'm not in the Navy now is because my last duty station was just filled down in Florida, come to think of it, was just filled with a bunch of goddamn anti Semites. Now, I'm not going to condemn the whole United States Navy. I love the Navy, always will. But I'm just telling you how things go in America. Let me see what else I want to point out here. Oh, this past election on November 4th was a total repudiation of Donald Trump. I hear these people say, oh, well, we lost because Donald Trump was on the ballot. Well, that's a damn lie. Huh. Donald Trump was on the ballot. Okay, this whole thing was about it was a reaction to anti-Trump. And because a lot of people woke up and said, wait a minute, this whole culture war bullshit, it ain't putting food on my table. See? And that's good because that shows that people are finally getting woke and finally waking up. Now, I, one person I want to point out in particular, what's his name? Steve Bannon. Now, I did a little research on this guy's background, and I find out that he comes from immigrant stock, Irish, German, right? I wonder if he ever took the time to read, because you can do that now. You can go to the New York Times, and you can say, well, let me get something out of the 1890s or what have you, or 1880s, or even before that. And it really bothers me. Okay, when I see people like Steve Bannon and Governor Cuomo talking about immigrants, right? Because the two dirtiest, and I mean no disrespect. Okay, um, most of my education was in Catholic school, right? Where I went with a bunch of Irish, Italian, and Polish kids. LaSalle Academy, Second Street, Second Avenue in Manhattan. But what really burns me is when I see Italians or Irish people basically on the Republican bandwagon against immigrants, quite frankly, because these were the people at the turn of the last century that they were considered garbage unjustly, but that's a fact. And I'm just wondering, this is one of the downsides of America. People come here and they forget where the hell they came from. Seriously. Frederick Douglass used to talk about that because he had a real love affair with the Irish people. The people, their music, the whole bit. But he used to ask, why is it that when an Irish person immigrates from Ireland and comes to the United States, the first word they learn is nigger? See? And it's just something I believe that was set up by what we would call the dominant culture, white Protestant Americans, to basically, I don't know, try to set some kind of, what do you want to call it? I don't want to say standards, but some kind of pecking order. And well, I mean, what is that? You're up on high and you let everybody else, basically the poor peasants down below, like chickens, you throw some corn down there and watch them fight and scrap it at each other. But that's America. That's the part of American history. And I'm not going to talk about what you did to the Mexican Americans. Okay. People, Americans really, we have done a very piss poor job at teaching history in this country. Remember, you didn't come over. I would say to the white Protestant Americans, you didn't come over here and discover jack shit. Okay, you came over here to a land that was occupied. People were living here, and what you did, you basically killed, raped, robbed your way across the whole freaking continent. Now, some people might feel antagonistic towards me because of what I say, but that's called history. That's what happened. And I think that America needs to really wake up. Because if we did, we wouldn't have all this bullshit about, illegal immigrants. First of all, there's no such thing as illegal immigrants. There are people who might be undocumented. And no, I'm not, I don't hear this bullshit about, Robert wants to just tear down all the borders and what have you. Well, guess what? There will come a time on this planet, I believe that that will happen. But that time is not now. It truly isn't. We are a nation state living with other nation states. And America does have the right, United States does have the right to say, hey, wait a minute, man, you coming in here? Who are you? What are you doing? Are you a criminal? Blah, blah, blah. I agree with that. But this damn hysteria that has been created by the Republican Party, by MAGA, and what do you call them? I put them down. Hold on a second. Oh, Ropers, right? That asshole Nick Fuentes. I'm trying to figure out who the hell is Nick Fuentes? What the hell has he ever done for the United States? Did he ever serve in the military? Ever risk his life for this country? And yet he's out there with a goddamn bullhorn, spewing all this racist bullshit. And what really upsets me is the fact that a lot in the mainstream media, they take this asshole like he's serious. And that's what really makes me wonder what the hell's happened to this country. You say that's the same thing that happened with Donald Trump, who was a registered Democrat up until, was it 2014? Come on, man. It's time to get real here. We got people starving in the United States. We have people unemployed. We got a president that's tearing down the White House and then holds his like great Gatsby parties. And while at the same time talking about I'm not gonna help feed 42 million Americans. How is this normal? I want somebody to explain to me how in the hell is this normal? I want to know who votes for this bullshit, who supports this. Now, this whole thing of MAGA, right? And gropers and what, they're not new. This is not new. This is the same bullshit wrapped in a different suit. Okay, this is the same white knights of Camellia, the Ku Klux Klan. What's the other one? The John Birch Society. It's not new, right? And I wish the mainstream media would start telling the truth about who these people are. This is nothing new. And what Trump was able to do for a brief moment in the timeline of history, he was able to bring all this garbage together. Remember, Trump was the one that said that neo Nazis were good people. He didn't say it, he said that. Remember with the Charlottesville thing in 2017? Where you have all these young white males with these tiki torches walking around saying that Jews shall not replace us, right? That wasn't Black Lives Matter, folks. It, that was young, right wing, white conservative males. And we need, like I said, we really need to figure out in America who the hell we are, quite frankly. You have a white nationalist administration in the White House threatening Latino people and African people and Caribbean people. Now, how the hell do you think that looks to the rest of the world? And so far, you've been killing Latino people like it's going out of style. You see somebody in a boat, you blow them to smithereens. No evidence, right? No explanation to the American people. What the hell what the hell is that? Since when does the American people when have we become so degraded that we put up with this kind of nonsense? For real. When did this happen? When did this become okay? Now I will tell, and like I said, I am so freaking happy that, even living over here in Uganda, I am so freaking happy that Mandami won. Okay, because we need to take a vacuum cleaner or an air blower, whichever you prefer. We need to blow out all the crap that we've had in New York City for the last 30, 40 years, quite frankly. But I'm worried about it, so I really am. Maybe because I spent so much time in Intel, and I've also lived in the South, where a lot of these knuckleheads are headquartered at. And I know these people, just like that bastard that killed the Speaker of the State House in Michigan and her husband, right? This is not a game, folks. You have people who want to destroy this country because they hate history, because history always goes forward, whether you like it or not. And these type of people who have congregated in the Republican Party, uh, they're dangerous. And I remember Donald Trump, he let a whole bunch of them loose. These assholes that tore up our capital, our nation's capital, dumped feces in the offices of our Congress people, okay? He cut them loose. And I think quite a few of them, since they've been cut loose, they've, been arrested on other crimes. So this is what you have going on. And I would say to progressives, to Democrats, listen, we've done great work this over the past few days. This election on November 4th, but we have to be real, and we have to understand that we are fighting against a dominion of evil. And I say this, okay? These people are evil. They want to end our democracy. And those of us that will not bow down, they want to see us killed, destroyed. Okay? Just like that lady and her husband in Michigan. Just like the attempt to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Just like the attempt to kill Nancy Pelosi. And they did seriously, hurt her husband. This is not a game, people. The right wing in this country, they're wounded, and they're wounded very badly. And what the hunters tell you, any experienced hunter will tell you, the worst beast in the jungle, the worst beast in the forest is the wounded beast. And that's why I say we have to be serious. Freedom ain't free, folks. And you always have some assholes. Now it's the Republicans, but you always have some people that want to try and end freedom. Okay, just like that little punk that's supposedly the Speaker of the House. Now, I mean, I don't see Johnson going out there trying to, throw down with anybody, but he has adherents out there, and that's what you have to worry about. So that's why I say we need to stand tall. We need to stand strong. Seriously, we won the first round, but we have to watch these folks because see, these people they think that we are enemies of Western civilization. If you are a Democrat, a progressive, a democratic socialist, they think that you are a enemy. So in their minds, what they feel is Western civilization, and they'll have no problems killing you. Now, I'm not trying to. How should I say it? I'm not trying to spread terror or lie about anything. I'm just telling you what it is. I've known these people. I have dealt with these people. They're serious, and we have to be serious also. So listen, let's keep on what we're doing, and we have to look out for each other. We have to stand up for what's right. When Trump decides to send his goons into the city of New York, we have to be able to stand up to them. It's just that simple. This is not a game, people. And this is not just politics. Okay? Politics changed. The whole idea of politics, well, it's politics. We win this year, they win 2 years or 4 years later. No, that's crap. Because you are dealing with issues that are dealing with people's lives. Like this whole thing about the shutdown. This is politics, man. You can't see a lot of that. See, this is the thing that we have in this country, this idea that you can debate and make compromises and shit like that. No, you can't do that. You're talking about health care. People will die if they don't get their health care, if they don't have their health insurance. They're going to die. Now, how in the hell are you going to compromise with that? Well, you only going to be a half death, right? Or only half the people in this given community will have to die, right? Or we're going to cut half of this rural hospital. I mean, come on, this is the 21st century, okay? We have to start looking at things differently. We have to keep our basic principles of the Constitution, but they just like Jefferson said, times change. See, you can't sit up there and tell me that. Well, listen, we're going to have a discussion and we're going to try to reach a compromise about the 42 million Americans that are hungry. How are you going to do that? I'm curious. How the hell are you going to do that? Are you going to say, "Oh, well, we're going to only going to make provisions for like 20 million Americans to be able to eat"? And this is at the time when there ain't no jobs in America. Seriously, there's no jobs out there. What the hell are people going to do? See, that's why this whole thing about Democrats and Republicans trying to reach a compromise, it's absolutely friggin' nonsense. And we, as an American nation, we have to figure out, are we going to take care of American people? Or are we just going to say, well, we don't give a damn about the working class people. We're only interested in the wealthy people. Uh, Remember, Elon Musk and his Nazi salute. Now he's supposed to be the richest guy on the planet. And he's the one that basically ripped our government apart. Now, are you for that? If you believe that, then I don't know what I can say to you. But we are at a, we're at a reckoning in this country, and people need to recognize that. Listen, it is getting late. And I am finished, and I think I got something. I do have something in the oven. So listen, all I can tell you: keep paying attention, keep reading, keep your ears and eyes open, look out for each other, and somehow we'll all get through this. Peace, and the Concerned Forum will be back. Take care. Bye.